Welcome to another PYROFORK album review. Today's album is 808s and Heartbreak. This album, I at this point in time, it's safe. A lot of people might get mad at this, but it's safe to say that this album's a classic.
Hell
It's
yeah!
it's safe
10
to
years
say.
old. It's 10 years old at this point. So yeah, it's about time to consider it a classic. 10 years
And
is a
it
good.
influenced so much modern pop music and stuff.
Yep,
So yeah, it's definitely a
and
classic. The
and
only
it
people
is the original auto-tune crooner. I would consider.
yes, and a lot of the only people that say it isn't are the people that just don't like the album.
Yeah.
And this album, this is either people love it or hate it.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't really an in between for the most part. It's either people love it or hate
Seems
it.
like it. I
Yeah,
love it.
I love it too, and it potentially could be my favorite Kanye album. I don't know. It's really hard to rank his albums, but because certain days I'm like it's 808s, it's late
Mm-hmm.
registration. Some days,
Some days
um,
it's gay.
it's just he's just, and a lot of people have said this too. He's like the artist that's like really impossible to rank his albums.
Exactly. He's like David Bowie in a way. And I did get into a contentious, well, not an argument, because I kind of just my uncle made a post, just like a boomer post about Kanye versus David Bowie. And I was just kind of like, can't they both be geniuses? And he was just saying stuff. And I didn't
Yeah,
bother arguing with him, but I was just like, you got to recognize the artistry of Kanye West, man. He just
yeah,
changes the game every time.
he's like the modern David Bowie.
I'm actually looking at a picture right now of them in the Kanye in the studio. I don't know who these other guys are. He's with No ID, and they're just working on the album. And they've got a Super Nintendo
Yeah, I've seen that
hooked up
picture.
to the TV. They're playing Super Mario World while recording the album. Love it.
Like it's funny because Kanye, one of his old albums was one of the albums he was gonna make was called Torographic 16,
I love that.
but he never made
Yeah.
it or anything. But it's one of those scrap projects. But anyways, talking about 808s, we can go on about Kanye all day.
Yeah.
You know?
So I guess a good way to start is just kind of talk about the context behind what was going on in Kanye's life and career at this point. So this is 2008 when this album's recorded. This is after 2008 obviously comes after 2007, and 2007 was a momentous year for Kanye West. Graduation came out, a pop rap masterpiece, which blew Kanye into the pop culture stratosphere. But unfortunately, after this success came the unfortunate death of his mother, which has had a long-standing shadow over his career and his life ever since. Which I'll go on the slightest bit of a tangent. I think it's very disgusting how these days people keep talking about Donda West. Like, Kanye, your mother would be disappointed. Like, shut up.
Oh,
Like, that's just gross. Don't talk about, you've got no right to talk about things like that. But
yeah.
that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah,
But yeah, so this was a you go.
Say this is also he broke up with his long-term girlfriend.
Yep.
I think they're engaged and everything, and it's just a fucked up time for Kanye when he recorded this. Just broke up with his long-term girlfriend, his mom dies, and that's what pretty much inspired him to make this album.
Well, last time you and I were doing this, we were talking about Kid A. This is kind of similar to Kid A in a way that
it's his Kid A.
Yeah, and also after the immense success of a previous album, suddenly they need to take a break and make something that's way different and more sad and stuff like that. And that's where 808s and Heartbreak comes in. This is a very sad and ambient record. Makes use of like vintage synthesizer and drum machines, which was an ambitious move for the time because everything was being modernized at the moment. But now look at it, where everybody loves lo-fi, everybody loves synthwave and vaporwave and stuff like that.
And this is also too at the time before he made this album, he was actually I just found this out recently. That he was gonna make actually a fourth part to his albums, the album trilogy or whatever he's doing.
The college series.
It was gonna be called Good Ass Job, and then but he decided to not do that, do this instead, you know. And but now, 10 years later, he wants to revive it and do it with like Chance.
Oh,
so
interesting.
But who knows if he'll actually make it? He just announced it one day, and Chance said, "Oh yeah, I guess we're making it," but who knows if it's actually going to go anywhere?
Who knows where, who knows what's going on with Ye?
People are like disappointed, Yandi's like, is delayed. Who knows? Yandi could drop any day. It could drop early.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. And drop it and it sounds cool. Like, it sounds cool. He says he's going to Africa to record. So this could be like Graceland by Paul Simon, or like something by Peter Gabriel, where they just, use people from Africa and create something really cool. I don't know. I'm optimistic because Ye hasn't let me down yet.
Yeah. But talk about so that's kind of the background of it. And I actually I was thinking about this because it almost seems like this album, like this album, Ye and Kids See Ghosts are almost a trilogy in some way.
Yeah, because they all the sounds and the eclectic use of samples are very similar in all three.
And the themes are very similar.
Yeah.
And then Kid Cudi, a lot of the Kid Cudi collabs.
Yep. Yeah, the Kid Cudi thing is a very big part of it. And yeah, for me, my brain goes right to those like vintage drum machines that he uses, the TR-808s, where the album gets its title from, stuff like that. Very present on this album, obviously, and you can hear it a lot on his past two albums, Ye and Kids See Ghosts. So yeah, I never considered it like that, but everyone just kind of considered Ye to be like the follow-up to Yeezy just because of the name. But yeah, it's much more of a 808s and Heartbreak sequel than it is a Yeezy sequel.
Yeah. We kind of talked about the sounds on it, but probably go a little more in depth. So this album, this isn't a hip hop or rap album at all. There's
no
straight up pop album.
It's a sad art pop album.
Yep.
And that's absurd culture right there. The art pop, art pop boys back at it again.
Yep. And I think that's why you probably really like it too. We just like that sound in general, but
I'm a huge fan of synthesis. I love synthesizers and drum machines, and that's why this really sticks out to me, just because those sounds. That's why I was very happy to work on that track with you, the one that sounds just like RoboCop, because I really got to channel that sound. It was really fun working on that track. It's kind of it starts off, this album starts off so much different than anything Kanye has done before. The past, 3 albums he did, they were, they just started off like these, really fun poppy bangers. This is slow, it's sad, it's 6 minutes long. I love the way it modulates. It's, the major key with it was like a C minor, and then it goes into like the E major. Something about that modulation almost reminds me of like musical theater in a way. And I've just heard some musicals that kind of modulate from minor to major like that. The Beatles kind of do it like that too. And I love the incredibly distorted 808. You're gonna be hearing that a lot. The 808 toms.
Yeah,
and like incredibly distorted to the point where where they become melodic in a way, and which is very similar to what Kanye does with his voice a lot, where he'll auto tune it, distort it, and makes it sound like a guitar or something, which he took to its ultimate point on I Did Beautiful to Heart Twisted Fantasy, where he essentially played a guitar solo with his voice. And so Say You Will really is sort of the manifesto of the album. It really puts forward That brings kind of establishes what this album is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Great song.
Yeah, I was like, what to say too, about this album. When it came, I kind of remember when it came out. I wasn't like listening to Kanye or anything like this,
No,
but
this would be 2008. 2008. The only thing I was listening to was the Beatles.
yeah, and okay, I remember around the time when this came out. I remember when Heartless like came out and stuff, but I remember I only got into this album until like recently because
Same.
my whole like like the last 10 years, everybody pretty much told me this is like shit and stuff. Like when this came out, I know a lot of people don't listen to Kanye or anything because this is
Mhm.
when right after this came out. I think this is why this album has kind of a negative reception too, because right before this came right right after this album came out is when a lot of controversies with him started.
Yeah, the Taylor Swift stuff.
Yeah, and then like
Barack Obama called him a jackass.
people started making like the South Park episode, like
Yeah.
fish sticks, and people started. Kanye was like, we almost view it as like a joke.
Yeah, well that's this is the year after this album comes out is kind of like where that sort of stereotype of Kanye West comes from. That sort of stereotypical image of the narcissistic rock star who's talking out of his ass and is crazy and stuff like that. And that all comes from, it's kind of tainted his image to this day, at least as far as like, not to the real fans, because like the real fans were keeping up with Kanye, but like to like boomers and
Yeah,
people who need like a confirmation bias against hip hop artists. They'll just look to this era of Kanye stood out so big that like even the old white people were hearing about it and they even got in on the gossip. And this wasn't the first time it had been like this for Kanye. He had the infamous George Bush doesn't care about black people.
first thing I think he ever did.
Pardon?
That was like the first thing he ever did that like people thought was crazy. Like George Bush.
Yeah, that was the first of many outspoken moments, which became part of the Kanye West brand.
His first Yeezus moment.
His first bipolar moment.
Um,
That's what he discovered his superpower. No, he didn't discover his superpower until this year. But this is like in the X-Men when you go, suddenly you suddenly blast a laser out and you have no idea what you're doing. And the white people are the Sentinels.
But I was a lot of people were making fun of Kanye around this time. People like, oh, the auto tune, it's so obnoxious. And then there's people that like rap fans and stuff. When I got on the rap, people were like, no, this album's shit. This is worst album.
He's selling out. He's becoming a pop star.
Yeah, he said rap fans say it's like his worst album and stuff. Even a lot of people I know, a lot of people say they don't like this album and stuff. But then I'm like I just got into this like I've listened to this album probably a couple years ago, and I thought it was like like I like some, and I was like but it never really hit me till recently. I think
Exactly. Well, Kanye's entire artistry only just hit me now. I've only been listening to rap since 2015 and becoming more conscious on the more poppy rap just recently. And so this is I've basically just got started here, and I've been really bumping this. I've been bumping Heartless a lot. The song and the video. The video is amazing. That the Ralph Bakshi, Ralph Bakshi tribute. I love Ralph Bakski's style and everything like that, and so he mimics it perfectly in the video. Beautiful. We're jumping ahead to Heartless, even though Heartbreak is before it, but just talking about the song because I was just really excited to talk about Heartless because it's such a good song. And they, those like sort of synth flutes. I think those are like Roland synth flutes or something like that. It sounds so good. And it has to be that because the picture I was talking about, I could see a Roland synth in the background. I just got myself a Roland synth. It's a digital one though. It's new or new-ish. It's from like 2009, but working with similar technology. But I love those sort of digital those synth flutes on it. It's great.
I don't have a lot to say about Amazing. Even Love Lockdown. I like them, but I don't have like a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
I've got a bit to say about Paranoid, because Paranoid sounds a lot like Thundercat or what's his name, Dram's most recent EP. Like Kanye really ahead of his time, making that sort of kind of bringing back that sort of synthy, funky Italian disco sound that Daft Punk brought back in 2013. Dram and Thundercat have brought back in their own way, and yeah, he really goes crazy with those drums and synth. It's great.
Yeah, and then going to RoboCop.
RoboCop.
This is my favorite song on the album. It is in my probably top 3 favorite Kanye songs.
I love it.
It is so fucking. It is like it fucking fits with all the shit I like, all the pop music I like. It just.
It sounds exactly like Hounds of Love by Kate Bush, but like I couldn't find a connection. Like I googled like Kate Bush, Kanye West.
I did too, because I was like, dude, like he because I know he listened to a lot of 80s pop music when he made this. Like he almost had to be influenced, like.
But like
how it's structured and stuff. Like it's structured like Hounds of Love song.
Yeah. But I can't find a connection. I haven't seen Kanye citing her as an influence, but you can just kind of hear it, that like the same way that like I found out today that Greta Van Fleet have never verbally said that Jimmy Page and Robert Plant are influences on them, which is ridiculous to think that like those guys are Led Zeppelin LARPers. Like, you know that they're influenced by them without actually saying it. But they're just being coy. I think Kanye just hasn't really brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
fantastic song.
And there's Street Lights. Bad News. The only one song I actually do not. Well, I don't dislike the song, but I See You in My Nightmares. I do not care for Lil Wayne on it. Okay, I'm not biased because I'm not a Lil Wayne hater. I'm not a Lil Wayne like fan. He's just kind of there for me, but
same.
He just when I first listened to this, I was like a bit turned off by it. He's like, we were committed.
It doesn't really fit in well. Yeah, I just don't know much about Lil Wayne. Like I haven't listened to a single one of the Carter albums at all.
I mean, those are decent. The Carter albums are decent, but I think they're a little overhyped. But I think they're decent. But I think yeah. I mean, I don't dislike the track, but I just Lil Wayne doesn't really fit. I don't know. But
it's the second half of this album. It doesn't like go downhill for me, but like all the strong songs to me are on the first half of the album. Everything up until RoboCop, and then the next batch of songs are like and then but at the very end you've got like Pinocchio Story, which is very cool because it's a freestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a live freestyle,
and it does sound, and it obviously sounds freestyle, but it's very good for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because Kanye's strength is more as a producer than as a rapper, songwriter. But he clearly seems to work well on his feet here, though. Who knows? It might not actually be a freestyle. I'm not accusing Kanye of lying on stuff, but it is true that he ghostwrites sometimes. But I'm not going to get into it because 10 years ago when this comes out, why would I need to speculate on it?
Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else to say about it? Anything else to talk about related to this? I don't know. I just don't think. I don't know why a lot of people say it's like his worst project. I don't.
Yeah, especially like 10 years on, people really need to see the you really need to have a retrospective look at this and how much it influenced the stuff that they like. Like Drake, without this album, y'all wouldn't have had that 2-hour bloated piece of shit Scorpio shit. You know what's sad? Michael Jackson's #1 song on Spotify is that postmortem collab he did.
What the hell?
That's sad. To quote the president, sad, all caps.
But yeah, this whole the whole like Drake and a lot of those guys, like a lot of like
And that's the modern SoundCloud sort of sad boy aesthetic starts here.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have Lil Peep or XXX Tentacion. I never refer to him as X because his name was so ridiculous that I have to say it in full to sort of. His name was so bad that it was good.
Yeah.
That his whole career was so bad it was good.
That's what his name is. Yeah.
But yeah, you wouldn't have that stuff like Lil Peep and Bones and Young Lean and all that stuff. It really comes from Kanye. Once again, changing the game. Kanye West doing his Kanye best.
Oh.
And whenever you put him to his Kanye test, y'all just know to put your doubts to rest for Mr. Kanye West. And I myself have just freestyled. I'm just like Kanye West now. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I guess I'll end this review since we talked.
Yeah, we got
mostly everything.
Yep.
Anyways, thanks for listening. If you listen to this,
thank you for listening, everyone.
All right, bye bye.